Okay, so I heard yesterday that Vaush, friend of the show, was debating a Serb nationalist, most likely over the Kosovo War in 1998 to 1999. And I thought listening to that might be kind of interesting based on the few minutes I flicked through when I was on this stream. I think it can show you quite a bit about how much depth you need to go into to work your way around atrocity deniers, whether it's in this case kind of like genocide slash war crime denier or apologists for brutal acts in history. Because yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot going on here. And I feel like going into this kind of thing might sometimes be a bit of a fucking minefield. So, should probably do some outline because I know you guys are all American and freakishly stupid. Let's have a look. So, back in the olden days, before 1991, there was a part of the world called the USSR. I know, shocker. And next to that country, there was a federation of republics called Yugoslavia. And in 1991, what happened was this big old thing here that was Yugoslavia went from being one pretty good football team to being a bunch of not so good football teams. Croatia are quite good now, but you know. So, Soviet Union falls. Bunch of these republics, which have already got kind of ethnic tensions or levels of dissatisfaction and regional inequalities, start to declare independence one at a time. Slovenia declares independence 1991, gets it. They're all good. Croatia declares independence. I think they get it in. I think they declare independence in what 1992, and they achieve it in 95. I can't remember. Croatia is this one here, the one that has all the beaches. See it? C for Croatia. There you go. Then we go into Kosovo over here. Well, no, before that, Bosnia tries to declare independence. There's a big fucking war there. Lasts about 3 years, curtailing in a fucking genocide. The Srebrenica massacre, which was declared a genocide by both the International Criminal Tribunal and the European Court of Human Rights. There's some dispute over whether or not the entire war constituted a genocide because there were concentration camps, there were rape camps, there were massacres, there was lots of genocidal intent in the rhetoric. But for the sake of, for safety's sake, we'll just say that the Srebrenica massacre was the one that's definitely a genocide, and the rest, well, we're not sure. You know. Anyway. Then we have 1998, Kosovo, after a long time of trying to declare independence and failing to get it, and going under more repression from Serbia. By the way, it's Serbia that's doing most of the. Because Serbia was kind of like Belgrade. Is that up here? It was kind of like where the center of the Yugoslav fucking whatever you call it apparatus was, and they're trying to consolidate power over all these like breakaway republics, and that's why things get pretty violent. Kosovo was kind of like the big one because that was in 1998 to 99. There's some skirmishes back and forth. There's some war crimes being committed and some other mad shit, and then eventually we end up with NATO deciding that Serbia had crossed a threshold that was high enough for them to come in and bomb the fuck out of former Yugoslavia. And then Milosevic, who's the leader of Serbia since 1987, gets ousted, dies while he's away to face trial for the International Criminal Court. Yeah, and then he and then Kosovo gains independence. To this day, they have a big statue of Bill Clinton in the town square of the capital of Kosovo, which is funny. Anyway, that's the gist. So there are two sides of this debate. One side is that Serbia, under Milosevic, was a war crime committing, brutal, quasi-imperialist regime that was terrorizing breakaway regions and ethnic minorities, particularly Muslims, around the region. And someone had to step in and stop these fuckers. That's the one story. The other story is that Serbs have some rightful claim to these parts of the world, or there was too much like aggression coming from this part over to here that they were just trying to deal with it. And then the United States, being the imperialist capitalist fucks, decided to allow a lot of this to happen so that they could have an excuse to come in and bomb the shit out of the place so that they could capitalistify these parts of the region. Okay, we good? That's it. All right. And here to debate those ideas are Vaush and a Serb nationalist. And let's see if we can contribute to this discussion in any meaningful way. I do see you there, Rat King. If you want to talk afterwards, you're sticking around, you can go ahead, all right? Although I'm probably going to take the position that I'm not prepared enough to speak to a fucking Serb nationalist about all the nitty-gritty details. But yeah, we'll see.
Howdy.
All right. Hello, Vaush. Hello,
Howdy.
Chad, as well, I guess.
Howdy, howdy.
Howdy, howdy.
Yeah, thank you. I want to say thank you for accepting the request for debate.
Yeah, I'm ready to defend the glory of Albanian Kosovoian thought.
Is it Kosovoian or is it Kosovar? Okay.
Yeah, glorious Kosovo, yeah.
So hit me up. What do you got in your mind?
Well, let's just say that due to all the recent tensions in the Kosovo and due to all the mess that was there, I was just looking down to the internet. I was checking what people are saying, and I did see that you are publicly supporting independence of Kosovo. And then I did a little bit of digging, and then I did see that you are fully supporting the bombing as well. You made a clear distinction between Iraq and Yugoslavia. You said that the Yugoslavia bombing was completely justified because of the genocide. So now, if you feel like I misrepresented you...
Okay, if Vaush said it was fully justified because of the genocide, you could make that argument, but you have to do a lot of legwork to achieve that. You have to go all the way back to fucking Bosnia to say that it was because of the genocide. I personally wouldn't make that claim. It's just there's too much to go into. But let's see.
Or did I said anything that you don't think? You can correct me, obviously. So do you still hold this point?
Yeah, you're correct on both points. As far as I can tell, I think that the NATO intervention was justified over Serbia. Obviously, like, it wasn't ideal. Like, things could have turned out better. But, like, I think I generally support what happened, yeah. And I support Kosovoian independence.
All right.
I think it's a Kosovan, not Kosovoian. But we're not going to get hung up on that, are we? I'm not that autistic.
So first, you do understand that there is not a UN resolution on the genocide. There is no EU resolution on the genocide. There is absolutely zero convictions of the genocide. So
true. He's not wrong there. There are convictions for genocide in Bosnia, though. Srebrenica was ruled, like, people were sentenced for genocide in Srebrenica. But okay.
So you basing your claim of the genocide based upon what? I mean, I guess first we have to define what the genocide is. What definition do you use for the genocide?
When I say genocide here, I'm really just using it as a shorthand for, like, a broader ethnic displacement or cleansing. I don't know whether or not it technically fits the UN definition of genocide. I haven't really looked to see, like, for the matchup in those terms there. I'm really just referring to like the broader conflict and the attempt at ethnic cleansing. And there certainly was like a broader ethnic element to the fighting, and there was quite a bit of persecution along those lines, from mass displacement of hundreds of thousands of people to thousands dead. I know there were mass graves that were found, you know. Whether or not this fits under the purview of like civil war as opposed to ethnic cleansing, I'm sure like the lawyers could debate it, but it meets my definition for like justified intervention.
Well, first, genocide and ethnic cleansing are not the same thing. Genocide talks about killings of particular group of people in order to remove that group of people, right? So ethnic cleansing can be used to determine to say forced replacement or replacement of those people. Sure, I do agree, but still, UN would disagree with you. Many other in major international organizations would just straight up disagree with you. You did not have a UN approval for those bombing, so therefore you were trying to stop, according to you, humanitarian crisis with another war crime.
So there were 2 countries in the UN that said they would veto the bombing of Yugoslavia. One was Russia. The other was China. I'm the UN and I agree with Vaush here. Okay.
You do understand that bombing is literally classified and labeled as a war crime because you did not have a UN approval of it.
I mean, I'm not like, we could argue the technicalities here, but I'm not interested in the legalese of the specifics. If we want to use the term ethnic cleansing, that's fine by me. I mean, over 1 million people, over 1 million Albanians were affected by this. With the potential for violence to continue escalating, I think the bombings were justified. What the UN has to say about it is largely irrelevant to me. It seems like, given the circumstances, the intervention was military.
Does he not? No, Leah, he's talking about Kosovo. So if you want to bring genocide into Kosovo as the argument, you would have to say, fuck, am my internet doing the thing again? No, it's not. You would have to say what they did in Bosnia was a genocide. Most of the process over those 3 years of the Bosnian War were seen as genocide by the German courts and by the European Court of Human Rights. And there was enough evidence to suggest that what Serbia was about to do in Kosovo before the bombing was also genocide. But there was no genocide being committed in Kosovo. That's the difference, right? But when people... the problem is that people are so fucking America-pilled that they forget that Bosnia and Kosovo are different things. So Serbia had done genocide in Kosovo. It's still in the air as to whether or not Milosevic knew about it, but definitely a few of his commanders were sentenced for genocide. Kristic and Mladic were the 2 commanders who were convicted by the International Criminal Court for doing genocide. But the point in bringing up for Kosovo was like, well, look what they did in Bosnia. That's why we need to stop Kosovo. That's where you bring genocide into. But yeah,
militarily warranted. And it seems like the outcomes were pretty okay too. The bombings killed, and this is disputed. I've seen figures in around 900 and figures that go up to around 2,000. But we'll say in the low thousands of people, considering the ethnic cleansing was displacing over 1 million people, with thousands dead racking up. I feel like that's a relatively acceptable loss of life in the context of stopping an ethnic cleansing. I mean, there are no...
Vaush needs to be careful here, saying 1 million, for 1 million Albanians displaced, because if you're a denier or if you're a Serb apologist, you're going to be talking about how the ethnic cleansings ramped up after the bombing. So you need to know how people were being displaced before the bombing happened and how many there were. Yeah.
No, like, good outcomes here, right?
So, I mean, I would go back to the, like, was bombing a good thing, and did it give good things to the Kosovo, right? I will go back to that topic. But what I first want to do is I want to determine, was there actual ethnic cleansing before the bombing? Mm-hmm. So you use are you familiar with what the trigger point for the bombing is? Do you know what event triggered the bombing, triggered the whole...
There are a few events. I think he's probably the massacre. I mean, there were a few massacres, but there was one right before the bombing where 45 Albanians, civilians were killed. But you could also, the thing that doesn't get brought up is it wasn't just the massacre. It was also that the peace agreement was rejected by the Serbs, and because they had already mobilized like 40,000 troops to the border to prepare for a new offensive. That's like the main, that's the bigger thing there. Anyway, Racak massacre, is it?
Whole thing.
It's been a while since I've gone over the notes. Please remind me.
So if you actually go to the Kosovo War massacre list, you're going to find out that there was, before the intervention, there was a total of 6 massacres. 3 were committed by KLA. KLA is a Kosovo Liberation Army. You check out, you can call it whatever you want. But you actually going to find that KLA/Albanians did as much as ethnic cleansing before the intervention as the Serbs did. So I do not think that's a valid claim. I can send you a wiki page, or we can go through it.
Okay, he's being really slight. Fuck, Chomsky does this as well. So Chomsky would say that the KLA did as many war crimes, even though that's completely false. Yeah, it's not. The massacres, you could argue, were about the same amount, but massacres are a very particular war crime. Displacement, the Serbs had already done a lot more. Like repression, burning down houses and shit like that. So the difference is, and I think this was a report from, was this from the UK or from the Dutch, where they said that we know that most of the war crimes were committed by Serbia. Like that's like in every conflict. And we also know that when the KLA did attack people, this is the report here. Yeah, it was the British Parliament report, was that KLA attacks were usually on Serb police stations and Serb police forces, whereas Serb war crimes were usually committed against civilians. That's like a major difference. Not to say the KLA didn't do bad shit. They did really bad shit. But the one place where the KLA did exceed Serbia before the bombing was they broke more ceasefires. That's it. But we can get to that as well. There's also, yeah, all right. So it's not just about massacres. You need to consider like war crimes as a whole, because just looking at massacres is a bit misleading. Yeah.
It anytime you want, but do you know when the bombing has started? So I guess you don't, since you
This is their British report. KLA attacks were mostly focused on Serb policemen, while Serb action focused on unarmed civilians. This is before the bombing. All right.
Not educate yourself about that much, but
wait, what did he? What did he say?
Through it anytime you want, but do you know when the bombing has started? So I guess you don't, since you did not educate yourself about that much, but
oh no, oh no.
Let's just say the bombing started in 24th March or 23 March, and before that there was a total of three accidents by the Serbs. One was called Racak massacre, which is single-handedly
accidents. Okay.
The most important accident that happened in that war. Now the Racak massacre it shows the best how much of that ethnic cleansing was not actually there. So the Racak massacre was not registered as a massacre in the UN. Just so you know, like the majority of the countries do not recognize that event as a massacre. It's a battle between Serbian army and
that's not true.
KLA, and America purposely tried to.
Even on Serbian terms, they said it was provoked because 3 Serb policemen were killed by the KLA. But that's like there was like a woman and there was and children at that massacre. So yeah.
Represented as a massacre multiple times, to the point where they faked in reports. They pressured certain people from other countries to fake reports and did all horrible stuff in order to make it seem like.
I don't know where he's getting. I think I know where he's going to go, but he needs to specify.
A war crime. Now, I know this is a very big claim. I can support it very easily. I can talk about the whole event. I mean, it's going to last so long, but short run. Let's just make a short story, right? 3 forensic teams were sent to investigate that thing. One being Yugoslav, second being Belarusian, and the third being Finnish. Now,
the Yugoslav and Belarusian forensics kind of had the exact same narrative. So it was it was 1-on-1. It was the Yugoslav Belarusians versus the Finnish, not. Yeah.
Both Yugoslav and the Belarusians said that there was not massacre there, right? So, I mean, sure, you can take Yugoslav and the Belarusian.
And why did they say that? Can you remember? Okay. Yeah, that's true. The Yugoslav Belarusians did say. The problem is, this is actually, it's even on the. Is it on BBC? Yeah. There's a BBC report on this. This is what the Serb authorities said, and the Belarusians. They said the victims, who included a woman and a 12-year-old child, were separatist guerrillas. That was the statement from the Yugoslav Belarusian authorities. Okay. That's one side.
As biased, but now let's look what Finnish said. The Finnish? Helena complained that she was actually pressured by both Finnish embassy and by American politicians to change reports. Her reports indicated that there was no execution and that the majority of those people were killed in the battle. They had KLA symbolism.
That's not true. She didn't say so. The Finnish investigators said it was a crime against humanity. She hesitated to call it a massacre, not because there was a lack of evidence, but because she was a scientist. She said it wasn't her role. Here, this is the New York Times article about it. She said it was not her role as a scientist to ascertain whether the killings were a massacre. But she did call it a crime against humanity. So, okay. This is the Racak massacre in the end of January, just before the NATO bombings. So, do you see what I mean? And I only know about this because I was reading about. I just decided I was going to learn all about the bombing like last night. Fucking, oh well, yeah.
Okay,
so therefore,
can we back up briefly?
Sure, we can.
Because we're on full on like war crime denialism, and I think we have to get to a couple of steps before we get to the specifics on that.
Sure.
So there are a couple of things here. First of all, I think
But this is like, if you're going to talk to a war crime denier, you need to know a lot. You see, like, because it's all quite easy to shoot down, but like, I guess if you're prepping to talk to someone, you're probably not going to think, well, do I need to look at the investigations on this one massacre that,
equivacy you're drawing between the KLA and the Serbian army is not valid. First of all, as far as I can tell, the deaths attributed to the Yugoslav forces number in excess of 10,000 people, the majority of which were Albanians. Whereas the KLA has several hundred deaths attributed to them directly. And while there were non-Albanians who were killed in the conflict, it's unclear how many were killed by the KLA. Additionally, the KLA is a militant separatist militia, whereas the crimes committed by the Yugoslav forces were done by the state, meaning that the mass graves that were done by the Yugoslav forces, this is something that went up the chain of command. Officers authorized the killing of civilians, the mass displacement, the terror. I don't think it's fair to compare that to the much lesser crimes in terms of total body count of the KLA, which was a separatist group that operated in large part because the Albanians in Yugoslavia had been subjected to so much ostracization and social pressure over the years. I know a lot of this was instigated by those student protests and that Kosovoan independence had been on the table for a while, at least in the minds of the people who live there now. I just don't think this is like a fair equivacy to draw at all. It's kind of like the difference between Israel and Hamas, right? Like Hamas is like a militant Islamist organization. And certainly they've done bad things, but I don't think what they've done compares either in type or in quantity to the violence committed by the Israeli state,
Okay, so two things. actual KLA leaders are today Kosovo's, let's call it a state, leaders as well. So you have currently Albin Kurdi was part of KLA, which is a current president, prime minister, whatever, of so-called Kosovo. You had Hashim Tachi and you have Haradinaj. Both of these people were top officials, leaders of KLA, which in the past 10 years used to be the leaders of so-called Kosovo, right? So that's one thing. So I mean, you trying to say how this is a one state and that this is just a militant doesn't really work, because the leaders of KLA are today leaders of Kosovo.
Well, they were a militant.
But that's also because the KLA did you don't need to deny that the KLA did bad shit, right? Any fucking freedom fighter group you find, any militant group you find, regardless of how righteous their cause is, right? They will do horrible, horrible shit, right? If you want to be like, that's why I say people who are like fucking pro-Palestinian, if you want to like pick your favorite Palestinian militia group, like all of them do bad shit, all right? Not because there's anything wrong with their cause. It's because being a fucking freedom fighting militia group, if you're recruiting from like really oppressed people who have no fucking hope, yeah, some of them are going to do really bad shit. It's the same with the ANC. The ANC, like as soon as they took control in South Africa, one of the first things they did was they apologized for the actions of their own fighters, because a lot of them were poorly trained. A lot of them were just fed up with what was going on. And yeah, there was a lot of atrocities committed there. This is true of the KLA as well. If you look at the list of indictments, you can see that even the International Court sentenced KLA commanders, 2 of them at least. So they were tried. Some others were acquitted, but you can see like through all of them, there's acquittals for the Croatians. There'll be acquittals for the Serbs as well. There were a few Serbs who were acquitted, even in found not guilty. So
group at the time, like it was a militant group that emerged because of Yugoslav oppression. Same way Hamas was a militant group that emerged because of Israeli oppression, but now operates as the de facto head of Palestine. You know, and in both cases, these are groups that were.
Hamas is the head of Gaza, not of Palestine.
Created by the oppression of a larger state.
But do you realize that 3 or 5 minutes ago you just literally admitted that the KLA committed a lot of massacres, but at the same time those leaders, which were actually accused of massacres like 3 years ago in The Hague, ended up being prosecuted for the war crimes. You understand that? That's okay. So I do want to back up a little bit. This is another topic. I want to go back to the ethnic cleansing.
In terms of
well,
total
I just
numbers,
want to clarify something.
The damage done by the KLA is incomparable to the damage done by the Yugoslav forces.
That is true. That is true. Absolutely true. I 100% agree with you. But there is one problem in that theory. The problem is that most of the war crimes, 90% of them happened during the bombing. The massacres were completely connected to the bombing. Now, does that make it justified? I never said it makes it justified. Does it give it reasoning though? And does it make it a reaction to the action that you caused? Yes, it does. And
so there's 2 things you can do here. One is you can just broaden it to be like the Kosovo was being oppressed by the Serbs. Like that's what was happening. All the way from not even 91, it was like 81 when Kosovo wanted they were already like a semi-autonomous region, and they wanted high levels of autonomy. They were refused under Yugoslavia. In 1991, they tried to declare independence. They held an unofficial referendum where the majority voted yes. It was rejected by the Serbs. After that, the Serbs actually moved their policing into Kosovo to try and quell unrest. Lots of people were fired, actually, like people who, state officials, like intellectuals, people were like removed from their jobs, and they, don't know what, is it Albanian they speak? Is that the language? But like they controlled like the levels, like they made sure that the education system and everyone like in government positions was speaking the Serb language, not Albanian. So yeah, there was oppression happening for a long time. I think by 1998, the unemployment in Kosovo was at like fucking 70%. Hamas is in Palestine too. Yeah, no, Vaush said they were the de facto leaders of Palestine. I think he maybe just shorthand, but Hamas leads Gaza, but Gaza isn't the whole of Palestine. So you've got Hamas leading in Gaza, and you've got the PA or Fatah leading in the West Bank. Like, Hamas isn't like all of Palestine, and Fatah and Hamas don't like each other. They're kind of at war with each other right now. So yeah, aren't they really? Yeah. I'm not saying that. Look, I'm not saying they're like the most popular group that's got political power. Yeah, they're the popular ones. People don't like Fatah. Yeah, but I'm just saying they're not the leaders of Palestine. They're the leaders of Gaza. And Palestine is more than just Gaza. Palestine's also the West Bank. Yeah. And all the other ones.
Without those bombings, I don't think that I don't think that we will have that much of a massacre. That's one thing. Second thing is
sorry. The second one you want to bring up here is if you want to do counterfactuals, well, where's the guarantee that what happened in Bosnia wouldn't have happened in Kosovo? Because that was the big justification for the bombing, was that if it hadn't happened, you would have had another Bosnia. And that's not good, because that was a genocide.
Now have a legitimate reason to go in there, because as I said, if you go to the timeline, you can see when the bombing started. I already said the date, 24th March. You're gonna find that the first massacres were actually committed by KLA. 3 massacres were committed by KLA, and 2 massacres were committed by the Serbs. I know that this sounds like what
were those massacres in response to? Why did the KLA become a thing? Was it maybe because of since the fall of Yugoslavia, there was like 10 years of state repression by Serbia in Kosovo, where people were getting disappeared? And like, again, before the bombings of Yugoslavia, there were, and in response to the KLA, there were Serb crackdowns that led to like 250,000 people being displaced. So yeah.
It's like, who's committing more massacres? Right? That's not the debate that.
You keep referring to massacres as like a distinct thing, but first of all, from what I'm looking at, like it seems like like 800 people found in mass grave just outside Belgrade as a part of like Yugoslav forces. At least 700 in a mass grave in a Belgrade suburb of Batanica. You know, like if we want to compare like mass graves, it seems like the Yugoslav forces have plenty up in the KLA, and in terms of total killed, they're like dozens of times higher. In terms of total displaced, again, over 1 million Albanians were displaced. I don't want to like,
but the 1 million number comes from after the bombings. So if you want to do, you need to get the what was happening before the bombings, and that I think was. Can I turn Vaush up? Oh shit, sorry. I don't know if it's just my mic is really like loud or is it too quiet. I'll probably bring mine down actually, because I shouldn't need to turn him up, should I? Fuck. I'll turn myself down. That's what I'll do. I'm still figuring out this new system. It's still a bit weird. Even before the bombing, I don't think it was 600. I think it was like 250,000, wasn't it? Or 400,000. The highest number I've seen is 400,000, but there are like a few. I feel like that, yeah, you get different numbers offered from different sources, right? Okay, I think that's better for volume. Yeah, all right. We'll go with that.
Because you had...
Thanks, Dreadhead, for the gifted tier 1 sub. I really appreciate that. Woo.
Compare massacres or whatever, in terms of the actual human suffering caused by this conflict, the numbers here are just incomparable. And as for the timeline thing, I do not believe that the bombings instigated the worst of this conflict. Even if that was the case, that would be a results-based analysis of justification for intervention as opposed to a process-based one. And I still believe it warranted the intervention. But that seems like kind of an odd argument, right? Like, well, we only did the mass civilian displacement and murders because the NATO tried to break us up. I don't know, like that seems like a weird...
No. My whole argument is that you have to, because we are arguing about intervention, currently. We can argue about all of those stuff later on. I have zero problems. But what we are arguing about currently is intervention. And you cannot look at as a whole event just like that and look at it. I'm looking at it as before the event intervention and after the intervention. I specifically said that doesn't make it justified. Now, when it comes to the massacres, all of those people who
I mean, like in 1993, because when they had the independence referendum rejected, and after the Serb crackdown started in Kosovo, the Kosovars actually tried to set up these kind of like parallel institutions. So when the education system was basically like, when the curriculum was moved to Belgrade, they didn't have autonomy over their education anymore. They set up this kind of like underground parallel government, and one of the parts of that parallel government was a Kosovar Ministry of Defense in 1993, and it was crushed by the Serb military. So it felt like the Kosovars were trying to hold on to some sense of autonomy with non-confrontation, like the LDK preached for non-confrontation, but the Serb military squashed them, and then the KLA came in 1996. So, yeah. It's just what happens, you know? You fucking squash people and you get KLA, yeah.
Should be charged. I 100% agree with you. I do not support the ethnic cleansing. But what I'm saying is that you did not have an intervention. You did not have any reason to step on the KLA side, because the KLA has done same amount of awful stuff before the intervention as the Serbs did, if not more awful stuff. You have 96 attacks on police stations.
Wait.
Police stations. Attacks on police stations as opposed to civilian attacks. And how many Serbs were displaced by KLA? I think there were some Serb refugees from Bosnia and Croatia who were settled into Kosovo. That was only like 16,000 of them. And they were attacked. They didn't even want to be in Kosovo. The Serbs just moved them there because like against their will a lot of the time. But I don't think there were over 100,000 displacements caused by the KLA. Fuck.
You're just wrong. You're just wrong there.
I'm not.
We already agreed in terms of people displaced and number of people killed. The Yugoslav forces literally dozens of times more than the KLA. You keep using a different term, like the number of atrocities committed or the number of like slaughters done.
Yeah, the thing he's looking for here is ceasefires. The one thing you would get the KLA for is that they broke more ceasefires. That's something that did happen, but we can maybe get into reasons for that as well.
I'm not talking like you can obfuscate with those terms. In terms of people killed and people displaced, there is zero comparison between the KLA and the Yugoslav forces. And
that is true.
NATO didn't intervene on behalf of the KLA. It intervened to stop the ethnic cleansing of the Albanians. It's not like we went in there.
That is not true.
No,
that is not true.
Wait, no, it absolutely is. Our stated justification. Yes, it is. We did intervene to stop the ethnic cleansing of the Albanians. That was the stated reason. We weren't going in there to like support the KLA in the conflict. The fact that they happen to be on the side of those who are being ethnically cleansed is just, I mean, that's kind of on you guys, right?
Okay, so two things. You went there to support independence of Kosovo.
I think Vaush is right here for the most part. It's just that he's using the wrong words and like the wrong references. The ethnic cleansing was definitely worse after the bombings, but it's kind of like saying the fucking Holocaust got worse after the Soviets attacked the East. Like, yeah, they do. Yeah, when the Nazis knew that the writing was on the wall, they sped up the executions and they fucking like shot a bunch of people, buried them, and dynamited all the fucking like the gas chambers. So yeah, like you can make that argument if you want, but you need the big precedent was what happened in Bosnia. That's like the big thing is, okay, what we know what happens if Kosovo doesn't get help.
Represented independence of Kosovo.
It's the same as fucking Gaddafi. This is like a Gaddafi thing. Yeah, Libya got really fucking bad after NATO bombed Libya, but they decided to bomb Libya after Gaddafi had vowed to crush to basically just massacre his entire opposition, which was like more than half the country at the time. They were ready to fucking flatten Benghazi and shit. So, yeah.
You completely armed them even before the conflict. you can find evidence of you arming KLA before the conflict. 96 to 95, you can find the trace funding of USA to the KLA, which was, by the way, which was labeled as a terrorist organization by the United States of America at that time.
That's not true. There was no, like, they were never placed on the United States terror list. That's not true. What did happen was that Bill Clinton's special fucking whatever the guy was, special person, gave a speech after one of the KLA attacks and used the word terrorist in reference to KLA, but he retracted it, like, was it the next day or within the next week or something? Yeah, it was a representative for Clinton. Robert Gelbard. Or there was one KLA attack that he called he described as terrorist actions, but the USA never recognized the KLA as a terrorist group. They were never put onto the US terror list. Yeah.
Because of all the organ thefts and because of all the drug dealing that they have done. That's one thing. Second thing.
Oh, no, he did. Wait, he said, I consider these to be terrorist actions. It is the firm policy of the United States to oppose all terrorist actions and all terrorist organizations. That's a really bad quote. And he did take it back. But fuck. Where's the retraction? That's what I want to find. Let me see. Yeah. So he made the statement twice on 2 different occasions. Later retracted the allegation about the KLA, and the group was never placed on the US government's list of terrorist organizations. Some analysts interpreted the US statement as a green light for Milosevic to begin a counterinsurgency campaign. Yeah, it was the counterinsurgency campaign in 1998 when the KLA territory was mostly claimed back by Serbia, and that was when hundreds of thousands of people were displaced and houses were destroyed. Yeah, that was kind of this guy fucked up. This guy fucked up big time.
Is again, you keep looking at this event as a whole thing. I 100% agree with you. If you're going to look at it as a whole event, the Yugoslav army has done more awful stuff. I 100% agree with you. I said this multiple times. But what I'm saying is that you keep saying that you came in there to stop the ethnic cleansing. But what I'm saying is that at the time you came in, there was no ethnic cleansing. They were fighting policemen at most of the time because they kept attacking the fucking, they kept attacking the police stations. They kept attacking the random villages. They kept attacking everything. So the police responded.
So why were they attacking police stations? That's where you need to, yeah.
And then they engage in the battles with those KLA members, and then you use those battles to justify your intervention as labeling it as a war crime when it's not a war crime. You are talking about ethnic cleansing of the people, but it didn't happen. Before the intervention, there was no ethnic cleansing.
Wait, this is not true. There was a report that was a brief in the White House back in September of 1998 that Bill Clinton received, which referred to over hundreds of thousands of Albanians who had been displaced from their home by the Yugoslav army and Serbian security forces. We didn't intervene until early to mid 1999. Before our intervention, hundreds of thousands of people had already been displaced, which constitutes an ethnic cleansing if it's ethnically directed, which it certainly is in this case. We know you Serbs fucking hate the Albanians. That's just not true. The idea that the only thing that was happening beforehand was skirmishes and the KLA bombing police stations, and then NATO came in based off of nothing but like mild internal conflict, it's just not true. There was absolutely significant internal conflict at the time.
No, I'm actually going to have to correct you. I'm going to have to ask for any kind of a source, for any kind of anything, suggesting that there was any major ethnic cleansing before the intervention. As I said, you can look it up on the wiki. You can look it up anywhere where you want. You're going to find the same result. I did this research long time ago, and I can tell you that the trigger point.
So this is the big. Okay, so this is the big bit that doesn't really get mentioned at all. Is more important than the one in France. It's this here. It's the diplomacy meeting. This is my Google Doc. Between Milosevic and Rugova in Belgrade on May 15th, 98. So this was when Milosevic agreed on a peace proposal, and then in the same week he launched an offensive at the border. And this was when people started to notice there's a pattern with Milosevic, which he's done a few times, is basically just to agree to a peace deal and then launch an offensive. That's kind of what Milosevic used to behave. And then in those crackdowns, this was where at least 250,000 people were displaced. And this was just between May and September 1998. From the border attacks after Milosevic's offensive. And this is when they were destroying towns, they were burning down houses, the Serb police were looting homes, they burned crops, they killed farm animals, there were summary executions. Yeah. I don't know why this one never gets brought up, is that Milosevic basically just agreed to a peace negotiation and then in the same week launched an offensive at the border. Like, okay.
That you use for the bombing, labeling it as an ethnic cleansing, purposely faking it as a war crime. It's called Racak massacre. Racak massacre is a single-handedly biggest event that you have to look at it in this war. I know that you don't want to look at it because you're like, no, it's just a massacre. You're looking at it as from bigger perspective. You're looking at it as a whole perspective.
I'm not using terms like massacre. I'm just talking about number of people killed and displaced.
Exactly.
If you look up timeline of the Kosovo War and you go to 1998, you can find this gigantic list of actual conflicts, like proper, here, Panda Bar massacre, the Gornje...
Oh no. The Panda Bar massacre was committed by the KLA. I think it was a cafe. And that was like kids they killed. There was like fucking 15, 16-year-olds. What was that? Oh no. It was a cafe, yeah. 6 deaths, Serbian civilians. Oh no. Oh shit. Vaush. Six Serb youths, a 15-year-old, 16-year-old, and 17-year-old, and 25-year-old. Uh-oh, not the Panda Bar massacre. It's an easy name to remember.
Obrinje massacre, the Lake Red...
So the Gornje Obrinje, that was killing Kosovars. This one was like when they were found in a forest. So.
Donjik massacre.
That's what KLA. You're reading KLA massacres.
Wait, they're
you
both.
Understand
Wait,
that?
You can read the page. These are KLA and Yugoslav forces fighting against each other.
Oh,
we have the report that was... No, not exactly. If you read the report, or if you read about the report that was given in late 1998, hundreds of thousands of people had already been displaced by this point. You go to 1999 over here, and it's only down here that you finally get the NATO bombing of Yugoslavia. Followed by a number of massacres. The idea that NATO instigated this conflict, or that it was just like a bunch of random nothing or other beforehand, is simply not true.
Well, okay. So what you read is massacres done by KLA. That's one thing. Second thing is, yes, people were running. Yeah, people were running. That is true, but people were running from the war. At that time, the Yugoslav army was not going against Albanians. The people went against Albanians during the bombing because people were out.
This guy's just lying here. It's the crackdown. It's the crackdown in mid 1998. That's what you need to get on. Fuck.
Outraged by the bombing. The people.
There wasn't a bombing at the time.
But yeah, that's what I'm saying. Okay, let me repeat. So
wait, the Gornje
before
Obrina
the
massacre was.
intervention.
Wait. Why'd you lie to me? The Gornje Obrina massacre was done against Kosovo Albanians. Why would you just say?
Okay, let's look at it.
Yeah, he should know that this is a really famous one. This was when they were found in a forest, wasn't it? Wait, was it? Or am I thinking of? Yeah, they were executed in a nearby forest. It was part of the offensive in September. Yep, September 98. When the Serbs regained a third of the province. Oh, the KLA had control, okay.
Like, I just listed off some examples of
What do you mean Liz Truss expected to win? She won. She won yesterday and gave her acceptance speech. What the fuck are you talking about? What? Yeah, she is. Someone said that yesterday as well, after we watched her win. Is Liz Truss just are people finding it that hard to believe that she won? Is what's happening?
of conflict before the NATO bombing had taken place, and you just blithely dismissed all of them as,
No,
oh yeah,
it's
well,
fine.
these
We're
were
gonna look at
KLA
it.
massacres.
We're gonna look at it. Fine, no problem. Let me just put just a second.
Well,
That's
unless it's
KLA
like,
Albanians. Operation against KLA in a retaliation of at least 14 Serbian policemen
oh,
killed.
in retaliation. Okay, gotcha. So massacres are okay as long as they
But
can
this
justify it with previous-
it says
The guy is like giving it to Vaush on a plate here. He keeps saying that it was KLA attacking Serb policemen. What were the Serb police doing? The Serb police were fucking terrorizing Kosovo for like a decade, but okay.
KLA. I don't know where you're getting this from, but this says it's KLA members.
What?
It says that they are KLA,
Did I
checked
misread this? Hold on. Killing of 21 Kosovo Albanians during the Kosovo War. Among the victims were women and children. The Yugoslav army had been deployed in the area. There was serious combat there. Serbian police vehicle was blown up earlier. KLA sometimes retreated here. According to HRW, the Serbian Special Police retaliated by killing 21 civilians belonging to the family of Deljaj from Donje Obrina on the 26th of September. Among those were 9 women and 5 children. Where here is the KLA responsible for this killing?
It says, the Yugoslav army has deployed in the area for several months in a major offensive against KLA. Sure.
This is what they did in Srebrenica as well, where they committed the genocide, the massacre of 8,000 people. They actually... they blamed it on raids that were coming out of Srebrenica, but the raids were like, in part because their food supply was being limited by the Serb army, and they were kind of like blockaded for supplies. But if you looked at all the raids, I think there was one raid where about like 4 Serbs died, and the rest were mostly just food raids. But that's what they do, you know, they'll use one attack and say, oh, it's all retaliation, you know, therefore it's fine. Afghanistan was fine because it was retaliation, you know?
Maybe there were people killed. Sure, I can agree. Sure, but
wait, what?
maybe.
Wait, it's not a civilian.
No.
Wait, it's not a civilian massacre of the. Wait, it was a civilian family. Wait, you can't just be. Well, okay, well, the massacre of the civilians was done in addition to the combat against the KLA. What?
They also did this thing where if you were KLA, they would just kill you and your family. They did that a lot. Yeah, that's like a very common thing for occupying forces. Serbian war songs are so disgusting. Is that, yeah, it's the fucking remove kebab song that they love on 4chan and shit, isn't it? That the Christchurch shooter was a big fan of.
Okay, sure. I'm going to admit, I said 15 minutes ago that there was a little bit, but you're going to find that there was much more done by the KLA. So if you're going to look at it from a NATO perspective...
We've already acknowledged that in terms of death toll. Yeah, I'm looking at 3 right now. Wait,
Klečka killings, like Radonjic killings, Panda massacre. Like you're looking at it, look. This is
the Panda massacre.
Is a lot of those done by KLA, perpetrators KLA,
in terms
Serbian civilians.
All
22
I care
Serbian civilians.
Is the death and displacement toll. That is the thing that I care about. I don't care about which deaths have arbitrarily been labeled as massacres or not. I was only trying to demonstrate the timeline shows there was extensive conflict well before NATO got involved.
Yes, I said that there was a conflict. I never denied there was a conflict. What I denied that there was an ethnic cleansing. Okay, what you need to understand that just because I feel bad for that family,
Okay.
and people who should have killed that family should be in prison, but just because of one family was killed doesn't mean it's an ethnic cleansing.
So
what I'm saying is, let me finish, please. I will let you finish, please. Just 2 seconds. What I'm saying is that the KLA has done as much as harm before the intervention as much as Serbian people did.
Okay,
What I'm saying is that the NATO had no right to go on the KLA side. On the KLA side, when the KLA side has committed massacres too, like even I believe even more than Serbian police. I'm looking at the Wikipedia right now. They were even killing Albanians. Like, look, Racak massacre.
Yeah, it is. Yes.
They were killing.
Again, I'm not denying the KLA killed people. Again, for the 100th time, all I'm saying is the Yugoslav forces killed and displaced exponentially more people, and that displacement took place before NATO intervention. Listen, on the 23rd of September, 1998, acting under Charter 7 of the United Nations Charter, the UN Security Council adopted Resolution 1199. This expressed grave concern at reports reaching the Secretary General that about 250,000 people had been displaced from their homes by the excessive and indiscriminate use of force by Serbian security forces and the Yugoslav army, demanding all parties in Kosovo and the Federal Republic of Yugoslavia cease hostilities and maintain a ceasefire. So, months before NATO intervention, this is a UN resolution acknowledging that about 250,000 people had been displaced by the Serbs. Can you find any evidence of this being done?
This is also why one of the criticisms that comes from the other side is that the West actually had been warning Milosevic for a while, at least a year, I think. Maybe even Bush Sr. Bush Sr. laid a warning at Milosevic in 1992. And he was much more isolationist than Clinton. But yeah, there is the argument that the West acted way too late because there was already the amassing of Serb troops at the Kosovo border when the bombing happened, which is like that offensive was going to happen with or without the bombing. So yeah, there is the argument that it was too late, especially given what happened in Bosnia.
To Serbs by the KLA, like there was some equal amount of displacement being done to kick them out. At any rate, the evidence is clear. There was already ethnic cleansing taking place before NATO got involved. You can argue that it wasn't warranted anyway, but there's certainly, it wasn't like the ethnic cleansing only took place after.
Okay. So what I'm saying is that KLA is the one who first started the action. KLA started the action for no reason except being funded by NATO. And we're going to get to a reason why they were funding them so early. There was no reason for them to start those actions.
The Albanians have been oppressed by the Serbs.
Okay, I'll just let me finish. KLA had attacks in '96 on the police station. KLA had attacks before. Look at this is Gornje Obranje massacre is the 26th September 98. But you have Klečka killings and you have Lake Radenić before 9 September and the 22nd June. This is before any Serbia has done anything. They were starting killing up and rounding up civilians for no reasons. So the Serbian army has came, and maybe Serbian army has done some. Obviously,
so this is not true. The Serbians held like this is the Kosovo Ministry of Defense that was attacked by the Serbian military, and also the fact that the Kosovo education system was completely seized over by and transferred over to Belgrade for the yeah. There was quite a bit of repression happening before 1996. I don't know about this one, boss.
I'm not saying maybe, but what I'm saying
is
here
as well. Yeah, the 81 protests, for the student protests. This was for autonomy or Constituent Republic. Yeah, Constituent Republic. This was when there was a state of emergency, so special forces were there. 9 people were killed. Then you've got 96. This is just KLA stuff. Okay.
Is that the NATO had absolutely no right to go on a KLA side. The reason why the NATO went on a KLA side is because of multiple reasons that I want to get into. And I'm saying is that the KLA has started this. KLA has went through with these massacres at the beginning. They were starting up and rounding up Serbian civilians like they were doing in the World War II, like they were doing in the multiple times. And now you're telling me that the NATO,
we're doing the denazification.
NATO had the right to support KLA?
So your claim was that the ethnic cleansing only happened after NATO intervention, which is provably false. The reason the KLA got so spicy back in the 80s and 90s was because Albanians have suffered under Serbian oppression for a long time. The conflict between your two groups goes back literal centuries. You can find arguments, and I read about this, even in Yugoslavia, there were arguments about the autonomy of Kosovo and Serbia as like constituents of like greater Yugoslavia. The division here has existed for a long time. So has the oppression of
So he's right there, but he needs to keep it within the 80s and 90s. Don't say hundreds of years. Oh shit. Because the reason Serbs fucking hate Muslims is because they appeal to history from hundreds of years ago. That's how they do that. They appeal to like the Ottomans and how they would force people to convert to Islam and shit. That was what the wording that they used that when that general pushed for the attack on Srebrenica. Like the quote that came out before the Bosnian genocide from one of those commanders. What was it he said? Fuck. Who was the guy that said the craziest shit? Fuck. Oh yeah. This is from Mladic, the guy who was convicted for genocide. He said, here we are on July 11th, 1995 in Serb Srebrenica. On the eve of yet another great Serb holiday, we give this town to the Serb people as a gift. Finally, after the rebellion against the Dahis, the time has come to take revenge on the Turks in this region. The Dahis were that was a Serb rebellion against the Ottomans in the 1800s. And Bosnian Muslims are not Turks. So I don't know about that one. Yeah. Yeah, just go back to the 80s. It's fine.
Albanians. There's plenty of evidence of this. It's been written on for centuries. We have like medieval monks writing down the oppression of Albanians. This goes back so far. So the KLA, emerged and acted in response to long-standing ethnic oppression and the desire for independence among Kosovans. And as a product of that, the conflict escalated. The Serbian forces got more aggressive in response to that conflict and led to the ethnic cleansing of Albanians in the Kosovo region. And that's when NATO intervened. This seems like a fairly straightforward timeline.
Okay, so, except the fact it's not. And the reason why it's not is you mentioned past. I didn't want to mention past, but if you're going to look at it past, you can look at it from a very simple perspective. Serbs used to be 96% in the Kosovo. Today, Serbs are 5%. They didn't just magically went from 96 to 5%. There is a way, you want to look at that history. You're gonna same Wikipedia page that you're using. You can find Ottoman Albanians attacking Serbs. Ottoman Albanians were constantly aligning up with the Ottomans because they would convert to the Islam, so they would get an easier time. So what they want to do is in order to achieve more land, to achieve more control, they would constantly attack the Serbs. I can find you data from 18th, 16th century. I can find you massacres of 15 villages burned down to the ground.
Wait, you're trying to use justification from a century ago. I'm not.
But you used that 5 minutes ago.
No, I'm trying to explain where the sentiment came from here. Listen, at the end of the day, there are plenty of ethnic groups that hate other ethnic groups. We don't need to go back to the Ottomans to justify our.
Yeah, but Vaush did say 100 years. He did say medieval monks and hundreds of years of oppression of Albanians. Oh no. Oh no. Don't ever give a fucking Serb nationalist the opportunity to talk about Ottomans. If you get, that's a fucking gaping goal for them.
Conflicts here. I'm only explaining where this stuff from Kosovo and the KLA came from. It goes back a really long time. But at the end of the day, right?
You can just say 80s and 90s though. For this, this is the people were alive during that. The people who were involved in the late 90s were alive during the fucking 80s and 90s. Don't understand why not. Because it doesn't apply to today, Rat King. That's why you can bring it up if you want. Like, I'm not going to deny the Ottomans were fucking terrible, but it's just, there's no relevance. It's completely irrelevant to the conflict between Kosovars and Serbs. Apart from that, I guess it's like a collective trauma that brutal dictators can capitalize on. Yeah. I mean, if you want to do the back and forth on torture, we can talk about. I'm not actually using this as an argument because I'm not being. But if I wanted to be malicious, we could read about the torture chambers in the Omarska camp in Prijedor with the Bosnian prisoners. Oh god, that place was fucking horrifying. Jesus. Ugh.
Like, we have two groups here, the Albanians and the Serbians. The Serbians are much stronger, and they had the political power within Yugoslavia. So, given the Balkanization...
Croats were also quite in Crimea. Yeah, they were. And I think they were also done for war crimes. Nobody mentions... They do. The Croats were done for war crimes as well after Crimea. After Operation Storm. Yeah. There were a few people who were convicted in that war.
Of the state and the rising ethnic tension. In this conflict, the Albanians were undeniably the minority. They were weaker, which is the reason why the Serbs were represented by the power of the state, and all the Albanians had were the KLA, their pithy little terrorist group. Freedom fighters. That's why the majority of the people killed were Albanians, and over 1 million...
It's so simple, though. I don't know why people find this so difficult. Like, I don't need to hold any fucking water for independence, like, fighters when they commit atrocities. I don't need to do any fucking defense for KLA fighters who decided it was a good idea to kill, like, teenage kids, Serb kids in a fucking cafe. I don't give a fuck about that. Like fuck those guys, It's just when you have to acknowledge that one side was fighting for independence and the other side was fighting for subjugation. That's kind of like the difference. Anyway,
people displaced were Albanians because they were the weaker ones, and it seems like, given the Serbs' hatred for them, their desire for an autonomous nation is
because sometimes when I hear Vaush talk, it sounds like he just really hates Serbs. Like, it's I don't know if that's maybe is that just me? Am I just being sensitive? Or I don't know.
Justified.
Okay. So let me go back to your argument that the sentiment is coming from those times. But what's the reason why we cannot use the same argument just in the Serbian side? What's the saying? What's stopping us to saying, hey, Serbian sentiment towards Albanians come from centuries and the centuries of persecution of the Serbs.
But
let me finish. I will let you finish.
No, I agree. Then split up. If you agree, if you hate each other so much, then have two separate countries. That's what they want. Why not go with it?
Because the product of the current demographics of the Kosovo is the product of ethnic cleansing of the Serbs in the Kosovo. I told you, Serbs used to be 96%, but Serbs today are 5%. Their SS divisions during the World War II made sure that the Serbs are very, very low. You can see from World War II, 22 villages burned down in one single day.
So
22 by SS divisions. No, please let me finish. I'll let you finish. So you can say how they were victimized, but they were not really victimized. Every single...
It's weird when you use the, if you guys hate each other so much, you should split up because otherwise the conflict would continue. I wonder how Vaush would apply that line to a two-state solution in Palestine.
Opportunity that they had in order to make sure that the Serbian population in the Kosovo lowers down, they took it. With the Turks, they took it. With the Italians, with the Nazis, they took it. And with the commies, they took it.
Racking, you can DM me wherever you want. Probably Twitch is easiest, or Discord. Yeah, you can DM me.
Okay.
So
I have
with
to, with respect.
NATO,
Wait, please.
yeah, sure.
I don't care about your
But you use them.
centuries-long conspiracy theory about how Albanians have engaged in an intergenerational project to annihilate Serbians by complying with foreign occupiers. I don't. Right now, you have two ethnic groups, the Serbs and the Albanians, who don't like each other. The Serbs are by far the stronger of the two. This dislike grew so strong that the independence movement from the Albanians sparked internal civil conflict and an ethnic cleansing committed by the Serbs. Given this set of circumstances, there are only really two things that can be done. You either leave Kosovo in the hands of Serbians for you to all rape and kill, or you protect Kosovan independence, or Kosovar independence. That latter option to me seems like the only humane one, because like what you're suggesting right now is essentially like NATO should have kept their hands off, so the Serbian like police forces could have raped the rest of the Kosovo region and displaced all the Albanians, so they could have fled to the rest of Eastern Europe. You know, I don't think that solves anything, and I don't think we have to go back like to like, well, they complied with the Ottomans as part of some anti-Serbian project. Like I don't think we need to do that. Like clearly you guys hate each other. You should be in separate countries.
Okay. So, but yeah, I didn't want to go back to the centuries-old arguments, but you are the one who went for it, and you use the word sentiment, which is completely fine. But then I just showed you that the history is not really in your favor, and that's why you're saying that the history doesn't matter now. Well, it very much matters, especially in the Balkans, because the current demographics are the product of the stuff that they did in the past. But let's ignore that. Right? And what happened? What's the reason why KLA existed? KLA existed is because they wanted to take away Kosovo from the Yugoslavia. How do we know this? Well, you can find the Yugoslav.
It's also because the majority of people in Kosovo wanted that too. But
authorities finding out about separatist actions even during the 80s. You can find the separatist action during the 80s. You can find the massacres during the 80s where one Albanian dude would just randomly come and kill a bunch of Yugoslav army dudes for no reason. You actually have a report that around 1,200 Albanian members of the...
it's almost like getting into a race realism debate. It's like all these attacks were for no reason. Why do you think Kosovars were killing Serb military people because Yugoslav military people because what? For no reason. Like, why would they do that? Okay.
Yugoslav army force was part of the Albanian separatist groups. They were literally just waiting to do this.
We know why the Yugoslav army did what they did. It's because they wanted to consolidate power after the collapse of Yugoslavia. They were trying to hold on to as much as they could after the fall of Yugoslavia. That's why they did that. We know why. That's easy enough to answer. And their leaders were able to do it because, Kosovo did have 70% unemployment at the time. Yep, they sure did by 98. And anyone who had any kind of like government or related position or government funded position was fired or forced to speak Serbian. Like that was another thing as well.
Let me go back to
why not just separate? Why not be separate?
But because
countries?
We cannot separate. Because the reason why we cannot separate is because the only way our economies work is because the only way we manage to achieve anything is by working together. For example, Albania and Serbia have an open Balkan initiative where we completely get along with Albanians from Albania. But why don't we get along with Albanians from Kosovo? It's very simple. We get along with Albania as a state just fine. We are in the same economic project. We opened our borders, and that's exactly what we need to do. The Kosovo needs to join Open Balkan Initiative as well, 100%. But the problem is that they keep breaking everything. And what NATO...
This is like old school nationalism here. It's incredible to listen to. First of all, Albania supports the Kosovo project. Whether or not you have better relationship with Albania than Kosovo, like we know where Albania really stands in this conflict. Second of all, if you want a good economic relationship with Kosovo, maybe Serbia should recognize its independence as a nation and open trade relations, rather than this weird, like them faking that they didn't get their ass kicked by NATO. Like, maybe they should accept that. And third of all, like, if you wanted to get along with Kosovo, maybe don't do an ethnic cleansing of Albanians in Kosovo. Over 1 million people were displaced. Like, it's not like this came out of nowhere, you know? This wasn't some mild police infighting. The population of Kosovo is like 2 million. More than half the population of Kosovo was displaced as a product of Serbian police forces and Yugoslav military action. This is like, like clearly, you guys should be separate. What were we to do? Just let you fuck over the rest of the Albanians in Kosovo? Like kill all of them? What was the end game there?
Okay.
That's that's where Bosnia is kind of important. Yeah.
So Albania as a state criticize Kosovo for their stubbornness all the time. That's one thing, and they agree with the Serbs and a lot of stuff. That's one thing. Second thing is those rape and all of those stuff, as I said many times, would not happen without NATO intervention. That's the second thing. Third thing.
Wait, why did they? Fuck! Ask him about fucking Bosnia. Holy shit! That's what happens without NATO intervention. Oh God. Oh no. It's so incredibly relevant. Shit. I'm gonna adjust my audio a second. One sec. I think it's better when I do this. I think that makes me a lot more tolerable to listen to if I just compensate a bit. Yeah. No, that just makes me too quiet though, doesn't it? Fuck knows. I think theirs may be fine. Feels like I can go quite hard though. Maybe I'll do this instead. Try that. Hmm. Well. Come on, keep going. Keep going. Boom, boom. All right, I think that's fine.
No.
Okay. Let me finish. Third thing, you said that we need to separate ourselves. No, we were living just fine until they started making problems. Between 50s and the 70s, we lived just fine.
You mean when you lived under a dictator? Wait, hold on, come on. You lived under a dictator. Tito had an iron fist. Tito united the competing ethnic groups within Yugoslavia and controlled you by ruling a police state. That's not the same as genuine cooperation. You lived under a dictator.
But the problem is that if there was actually...
They had a good football team. They had a Yugoslavia football team was good.
Tensions. If the people wanted to kill each other or slaughter each other or do any of those kind of stuff, I don't think the police would really stop them. I mean, you would at least find some kind of accidents where they try to do so, but they
No, it's not a 5-hour debate. It's a fucking stream. The upload hasn't been done yet.
Managed because of the police. And the third thing is that NATO already decided what they're going to do. First, you mentioned that Serbia was defeated by NATO. The end of the bombing marks 1244 resolution. What does it say in 1244 resolution? 1244 resolution says that the Kosovo is autonomous province of Serbia. This is signed by both NATO and all of the countries in NATO who committed that war crime. That the Kosovo is autonomous province of Serbia. But then 7 years later, your country broke that. Your country supported Kosovo's self-declaration of independence, which is against international law. So you basically are part of this institution, but you do not give absolutely anything about the international law, but at the same time using international law to justify your imperialism. This was a pure act of imperialism.
First of all, I don't use international law to justify my imperialism. I use ethnic cleansing to justify my imperialism. I don't give a fuck what the law says. Second of all, I don't care. Kosovo was obviously operating as an autonomous nation. Kosovo is not beholden to Serbian law. Serbian judicates and judges and police officers do not make decisions in Kosovo. It's a country in its own, and I think it's fair and reasonable to understand that. Hey, if you're so concerned with Serbia's economy, maybe you should recognize that your shit-ass behavior is the reason why you guys haven't been let into the EU properly. Like, you guys can't let go of all this ethnic hatred that you have, and it's really fucking over your ability to cooperate with the broader EU. You know, that's a far better economic trading block than you're ever going to get with just Kosovo being a compliant.
Yeah, this is good. We're going into some spice territory now. Oh God.
Within your own country. It's just so strange to me because like everything here is so straightforward, you know? The ethnic cleansing was taking place before NATO intervention. After NATO intervention, it stopped only a few months after. Was everything resolved perfectly? No, probably not. Things rarely get resolved perfectly. But like, you still haven't given me an answer to like what the alternative was. Like, you guys just should have just fucking killed everyone in Kosovo.
Alternative is what exactly says international law. Kosovo gets autonomy. They get to rule themselves just fine. We respect their majority, and they respect our historical
Serbia
claim to
wouldn't
it.
have done that. You guys,
we
were
agreed to that, but
no,
we signed and we
you
agreed to that
because we bombed you. You invaded Kosovo because you wouldn't agree to that.
That's in our favor.
No. You can't say like the alternative would have been this agreement that we only agreed to because NATO intervened. The Serbs were not willing to accept Kosovar independence.
The autonomous thing, wasn't that an interim administration? Yeah, because Kosovo didn't declare independence until 2008. Even China abstained. Even China didn't veto the interim thing. Well, who are the UN members who, which UN states don't recognize Kosovo independence? That's what I want to see. Page not found. Thanks, United Nations. Who doesn't recognize independence? The International Court of Justice didn't call it a violation. Okay. Half the world doesn't recognize it. Wait, where's the list? Fuck you. Talk to me like that. That's a lot of people who don't like Kosovo. Shit. Wow. It's basically half. Yeah. Don't know, guys. It's pretty rough out there. Pretty rough for old Kosovo.
That's why all this started. All of this started because of student protests over Kosovar independence. You don't get that. Serbia was willing to kill and to displace Albanians.
Recognizing a breakaway. Well, there's a precedent, isn't there? Like, obviously, if you're fucking China, you can't recognize a breakaway region. If you're Russia, you'd think you could, but actually you can't because Russia only recognizes breakaway nations that want to become part of Russia, which is a bit different. Obviously, Morocco doesn't want people to recognize breakaway regions because of, I guess, Western Sahara. Even Ukraine, though, even Ukraine's like, well, probably because of, it wouldn't look good on the world stage because people are stupid. People would actually say, Ukraine recognizes Kosovo, so why can't people recognize Crimea? Yeah, fuck off. Okay.
To prevent that from happening. So the alternative with no NATO intervention is what? Mass.
By the way, the correct answer to that is obviously Kosovo can gain independence because, like, it's a breakaway from an imperialist regime that had tried to fucking squash them in living memory. If Crimea gains independence, there is no Crimean independence. It becomes part of Russia. And then you have an indigenous population of Tatars who get fucking, like, annihilated because of it. It's like a democratic region becoming non-democratic. Like, okay.
Genocide in Kosovo?
Okay, so two things. All right, the Serbian army did
also,
not.
no one's annexing Kosovo to make it part of. Imagine though. Imagine if the US annexes Kosovo. Holy shit.
go there because of the just let's randomly kill Albanians, right? Serbian army went there because KLA started killing up the civilians first. As I mentioned already, you're gonna see look Gornje Obranje massacre, the massacre that you mentioned, right? Let me just go back to it real quick. It's a retaliation. Sorry for my pronunciations. For the for the actions of KLA. So that would not technically
the UN annex got true.
Would not happen without
with their big blue helmets
shooting up the civilians. And why were they shooting up civilians? Because they were fighting for independence. So they were using the same tactic that you're accusing Serbs of, but just because it fits American imperialism, that's when you support it.
Don't care. I didn't say I support. I did not say I support the. You keep dodging the question because you know that you're taking the side of the genociders. I did not justify the KLA killing civilians. At no point in this convo have I done that. All the facts that I've laid out here speak for themselves. And by the way, the student protests for Kosovar independence took place in '81, after which your president declared a state of emergency and killed protesters. So I don't think the KLA really kicked the foot off on this one. Regardless, it doesn't matter to me. We have two ethnic groups that clearly can't get along. They need to be kept independent. The Serbs were so fastidiously against that independence for the Kosovars that they were willing to kill and displace. That is an undeniable fact. If NATO hadn't intervened, who knows how many Albanians you would have killed. It was good for us to intervene. I'm glad we scared you. Because, of course, at any point in time, you know perfectly well that one of the countries that constitutes NATO could liquidate Serbia. We choose not to because we don't want to cause a fuss about it. But while you're the weaker dog in the pen, you should probably learn your place and not sit time here trying to justify ethnic cleansings to me because you found a smaller dog. Like, why? Why not work on greater cooperation in the EU sphere? Why waste your time hating people who are just trying to find a nation where they can be kept safe? You guys tried to push them out of Kosovo. More than 1 million displaced out of a province with 2 million people. Ridiculous. They should be allowed
you made your points. Can I please just respond to them? So the reason why we should not allow them to gain independence is because they base their whole need for independence from World War II.
It's almost like you know when kids fight over whose dad is like stronger or whatever. Yeah. Vaush loves doing a bit of ironic American chauvinism. I don't know how ironic it is these days. Like, you're gonna get Poe's law is gonna fucking fire in there. Like, Jesus.
World War II is the first time that they gained Kosovo, and the World War II is the time when they had the fascist project, Big Albania, where they completely wanted Kosovo. And the reason why they wanted Kosovo is they based their claim.
I mean, Serbian nationalism is like, it's kind of uniquely fucked because of how like they support Russia and shit, but
after we are majority. But the reason why we are majority is because in the past we committed ethnic cleansing. So that's the reason why we never given them independence, because you base your whole claim about independence based upon the demographic stats. But the demographic stats are changed based upon historical events that you purposely. No, but please let me finish. From a historical events that you purposely engaged in to change those demographics. So you're like, basically what you're saying is, hey, I'm using this just an example. I have nothing against either. Like, I'm just going to use a random neighbor country. We're going to go down to Hungary. We're going to go down to these neighboring villages. We're going to commit ethnic cleansing. And then 50 years after that, we're going to victimize ourselves to the point where we
I mean, one of the, like, if you want to criticize the West for the NATO, but like, one thing that's actually very convincing to me is that the reason Milosevic did what he did was because he had gotten away with it for so long. He got away with Bosnia. He got away with like what was happening in fucking Croatia and for Kosovo for like almost a decade. So I feel like there could have been some attempt to push more of a deterrence on there from earlier on. Like the crackdowns in '98 were pretty far. The fact that there was a genocide already in Bosnia was, yeah. And then maybe it wouldn't have had to be such a fucking shit show of a bombing campaign, because it was. Like, the aftermath of that bombing was like pretty horrible.
Ask for independence because suddenly now we are a majority because we ethnically cleansed everyone. That's one thing. Second thing is, you are saying.
I ask you a third time, there's a point where he says something very Monka TOS. Okay.
How the ethnic cleansing will happen more. No, I'm telling you constantly that the ethnic cleansing was there, but it was there by KLA. Like, you purposely just completely.
I mean, you've gone from massacres on, which were largely attacks on the Serb police, to ethnic cleansing. I don't know about that. Okay, if you want to go really hard on the KLA, you could say that there's a lot of examples of them just not giving a shit about Albanian civilians. Like, they would launch their attacks from villages and then abandon those villages and run into the mountains and then the villages would get attacked in retaliation afterwards. And they kind of knew that was going to happen. And it's probably reasonable to assume that the KLA knew that it didn't really matter for them because civilian deaths are always good for them on the world stage, like as a propaganda thing. So, but there were instances where Serb civilians in Kosovo were chased out of their towns and villages and harassed and shit. But I mean, if they did that, then Serbia did that like times a billion. So
negotiating, ignoring the fact that KLA killed even more Serbs before NATO intervention. What's the reason why you didn't say, hey, maybe we should just, guys, hey, let's not go for any side, and let's actually try to work this together, right? But no, you purposely went there and you supported a terrorist organization labeled by your own country as a terrorist organization in order
not true again, not labeled by the US as a terror. Okay.
To do what?
So
and
again,
let me tell you what's about. Let me please just. I'm very close to finishing, I promise. The reason why you went there is not because you wanted to completely ethnically to stop this humanitarian crisis. Because if you wanted to do that, then you would not use the chemical weapons. You would not turn Kosovo into the wasteland that it is today. You would not turn Kosovo into the depleted uranium place where the people and the cancer rates are increasing almost every single year. That's one thing. Second thing is, you would not bomb the Albanian refugees. Do you know how many Albanians did you kill? You killed a random Albanian refugee column and you called it an accident. You absolutely never gave any fucks about Albanians. The only thing you cared about establishing a large military base, destruction of socialist economic system in Yugoslavia, and making sure that there is.
This is where the Chomsky rationale comes in. I don't know why the fuck you would have sympathy for Milosevic. What was socialist about that regime at that point?
Absolutely no Russian influence there. If you actually think, please. If you actually think that you went there because of a humanitarian crisis, yeah, sure, there was a humanitarian crisis. There was a terrorist organization labeled by your own country as a terrorist organization committing mass massacres. And you went there and you supported them. You're completely You're completely ignoring the fact that you stood side by side with the people that committed war crimes. But just because it goes in your favor, well, then they are freedom fighters.
Okay.
So they are freedom fighters.
That's enough. Okay. You were doing an ethnic cleansing. Stop with the whining.
They were doing same thing.
No, they weren't. We've already gone over it.
What?
We see
Fluffer, those numbers from before the bombings. I didn't think there were 8,000 to 10,000 Albanians killed is that over the whole war?
See the death toll. There was no ethnic cleansing.
The thing with before the bombing is that right before the bombing, Milosevic had moved thousands and thousands of troops onto the border for a second offensive. Or was that a second one? Probably more. The whole war, yeah. I think you can also find there are archived kill lists of Kosovar intellectuals and cultural figures that were given to the Serb police before that invasion.
Cleansing of Serbs. It wasn't happening. It's not. The KLA engaging in sporadic terrorist violence is not the same as the state trying to displace millions of people, which is what you actually did. Stop with the whining. You are not the victims here. The only thing you're victims of here is the fact that the Soviet Union fell apart, Tito couldn't keep shit together for long enough, to prevent it from falling to Western hegemony, and Serbia is incapable of getting its economy off the ground because you fuckers can't work with the EU because you're too busy reminding everyone how you hate the fucking Albanians for shit that happened 800 years ago, okay? Nobody cares. It's not about the demographics of Kosovo. It's about what's happening right now, today. Everything you're doing, all of this whinging you're engaging in right now is nothing more than a pretext for your real argument, which is that your security forces should have been allowed to kill and rape and displace as many Albanians as you wanted back 2 decades ago. That's what you're actually saying. Like, at the end of the day, like, if you take away all the obfuscating bullshit, all of this, like, well, actually, it was to destroy socialism, all I care about is stopping the ethnic cleansing. And it's very clear where your priorities lie, because underneath all your principled legalese arguments against NATO intervention, what you really have is a deep-seated ethnic hatred for the Albanians. That's why you've memorized hundreds of...
It's more his sympathy for Milosevic, which is strangely common amongst left-wingers. I don't even know if it's sympathy. I think it's, fuck, remember when we read Mao's Little Red Book on stream? And there's that quote that's just the craziest fucking line. Where is it? There's something he says about, like, anyone who opposes our enemy is a friend or some shit. Oh, I'll think of it. See if I can find it.
Years of so-called ethnic displacement committed on their part to secretly get the jewel of the world, Kosovo, from the Serbians. No. The ethnic cleansing was already happening. We brought in our superior military equipment. You lost. Some civilians died during the NATO bombings. It's deeply unfortunate. Unfortunately, there's not really a way to conduct a bombing campaign on a country without some civilians dying. At least it's very difficult to do. Obviously, the fewer civilians die, the better. But considering the fact that the Serbian forces were racking up tens of thousands of kills and millions of displaced people, I would say that even if we killed some civilians with our bombing, we probably saved a lot of lives in the long run. And I don't care about the demographics of Kosovo. All I care about was the conflict happening then. I don't care who started it. I don't care.
This was it. This is from the Little Red Book. He printed like over 1 billion copies of this fucking book. We should support whatever the enemy opposes and oppose whatever the enemy supports. I think this kind of explains why people, why tanky leftists are kind of fucking insane. It's just so weird that I actually see this quote from like a fucking thought leader, because I just thought it's like, oh, America's bad. I'm just gonna like very childishly attack, like support everyone who doesn't like America. Care
why it was happening. All I care about was an ethnic cleansing was being committed. One group of people were being victimized. The other group of people were not. The Serbian militia, the Yugoslav forces were not. They were the victors there, not the victims. The Albanians had no chance of defending themselves, which is why they had a pithy little KLA militia force instead of an actual military to defend themselves. How could they not? They were a separatist group. All I care about...
the 1993, the Kosovar Defense Ministry
was stopping the violence against civilians. And in that respect, NATO intervention seemed to have helped. I can't see alternate timelines. It's possible some other set of actions might have led to a better outcome, but that seems to be the one that worked best.
Okay, so can I answer?
So basically, you're anti-imperialism if you're supporting another imperialistic power. Well, that's the problem. Is like we learn a lot about American imperialism and the British Empire and all that shit from like our left, like local left-wing sources in the English-speaking world. But the more you learn about other countries, is like they all like every country that can do imperialism will do imperialism. All of them. Even fucking Cuba, of all countries, was like involved in all kinds of shit in Latin America, and like they fought a war with the they fought a war in Angola as well against the South Africans. There was like a power vacuum, kind of like a civil conflict in Angola, where I think one side wanted to be socialist and the other side wanted to be capitalist, and then fucking Cuba intervened And then South Africa came in and fought them and lost, and they got fucking massively cucked, like apartheid South Africa. Yeah. They fought in Namibia as well, because that was like kind of partially under the control of South Africa at the time. But yeah.
So because you want to accuse me of hating hating Albanians, why do you hate Serbians then? Why do you hate Serbian civilians? No, but you don't. So you accuse me of denying a genocide. So like, I don't know, 20 minutes ago, but you deny ethnic cleansing. First, you did admit that this was not a genocide, that this was an ethnic cleansing. So let's use that term. First, but why are you saying purposely that there was not ethnic cleansing of the Serbs by KLA? We can find many reports on that. So you are saying that I am, that I'm ignoring the ethnic cleansing, but you're doing the same thing.
No. We'll do it back and forth now. When was there ethnic cleansing by the KLA?
Before the war. Before the intervention.
What, like
and
90s, 80s? Like what, like broadly?
You can, but it's not just 90s. You understand that this is the KLA uses the same ideology from the fascist government of the Albania during the World War II. What is their main ideology?
This is getting into your pro-Russia fucking talking points as well. Oh god, fucking the Azov battalion. Yeah, they attacked Serbian civilians. We know that. Yeah, but I don't think Nazi ideology was kind of like.
Big Albania project. They don't want Kosovo independent. You thinking that these people want Kosovo independent?
No, stop. You're doing it again. No, stop. You're soapboxing again. I just said like 90s or 80s, like that time period, right?
But KLA uses the ideology from the World War II.
Okay, wait, no. So the 90s and 80s, that's when you're saying they committed an ethnic cleansing against the Serbians, right?
Yes.
Okay, they did not. Nowhere here are their numbers. No one here are their numbers indicating they committed an ethnic cleansing. Just killing a couple of civilians as an insurrectionist group is not the same as an ethnic cleansing. That'd be like saying Hamas is doing an ethnic cleansing of Israel. There needs to be like the actual potential for real, like real harm being done here. There needs to be the potential for like broad like state violence or mass ethnic threat, which the KLA could never muster because they're not, as strong as the Serbian militia forces.
But they're strong enough to go to the Serbian villages and kill Serbian civilians, which you completely say that it's not a...
There are only a couple hundred deaths that have been directly attributed to them. Over the entire Kosovo War, only 2,500 non-Albanians, civilians have deaths attributed to them, and we don't even have numbers on who did all of them. You guys displaced millions! This is not comparable. Stop! You're making yourself look weak. Glorious Serbia is being made look weak because you're comparing these pithy KLA atrocities to the glorious might of the Serbian militia forces.
This is you.
What the fuck? Is that what they were? Okay.
For me being a nationalist, this is really not going to work.
You describe yourself as a nationalist.
There is sure, but this has nothing to do with the topic. What I'm saying is the reason why you said first. According to the 2001 report by Human Rights Watch, KLA was responsible for the ethnic cleansing. This is Human Rights Watch.
Human Rights Watch accused them of engaging in ethnic cleansing?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, hold on. Human Rights Watch, KLA, ethnic
I thought they accused them of war crimes, which I mean, it's not wrong, but...
So that's one thing. Second thing, you can look at that while you're looking that up. You can I can just talk about little points that you meant. So the reason why I care so much about this is not because I'm a nationalist.
Wait, do you mind if I read a part of this really quickly? Because you did bring it up,
Yeah, sure.
After a decade of repression that culminated in a 3-month killing spree by the Yugoslav army and Serbian...
There's nothing here about ethnic cleansing. I think he's reading this one. This does have abuses by the KLA in it. It's a long list. They did fire attack from civilian villages and then just run away into the mountains, leaving the villagers to die. They did attack fucking teenagers in a cafe at least once. They did harass Serbs who were living in Kosovo and push them out of their homes and burn them down and shit. They attacked Roma because they were probably, not very left-wing either. They attacked travelers. They abducted, yeah, they did that as well. They disappeared like 500 Serbs. And most of them were last seen with KLA members being taken away. These are your massacres. Abductions of Roma, abductions of ethnic Albanians who were considered collaborators. Yeah. You can find a good bit in there, but that was after the underground Kosovo government had been preaching for non-confrontation for years. Like
security forces and the expulsion and displacement of more than half the ethnic Albanian population. Most of Kosovo's Albanians are finally free to live without fear of discrimination or violence by the Serbian state. Life is returning to Kosovo as refugees return from Macedonia and Albania. Yet for the province's minorities, especially Serb and Roma populations, as well as some ethnic Albanians perceived as collaborators or as political opponents of the KLA.
Did you miss a lot? No, you've just missed the entire breakdown of the Kosovo War.
These changes have brought fear. So this article opens with, okay, so the Serbs displaced half their population and killed, tons of them, did a killing spree. But now let's acknowledge...
Can I read the report? Because you're purposely just completely ignoring the fact that about the ethnic cleansing. But
well, because I just read about the ethnic cleansing. Okay. It's a pretty long report. I can't read it all.
Okay, so can I read it for you?
Sure, the whole thing.
So the KLA was responsible for serious abuse. This is by Human Rights Watch, including abductions and the murders of Serbs and ethnic Albanians considered collaborators with the states. Elements of the KLA are also responsible for the post-conflict attacks on the Serbs, Roma, and other non-Albanians, as well the ethnic Albanian political rivals. Widespread and systemic burning and looting of the home belonging to the Serbs, Roma, and other minorities, and destruction of the Orthodox churches and the monasteries, combined with the harassment and intimidation designed to force the people from their homes and the communities. Elements of the KLA are clearly responsible for many of these crimes. This is a Human Rights Watch. You completely try to not talk about that. Okay,
wait, sure. Where was the term ethnic cleansing?
This just because he doesn't say ethnic cleansing.
Wait, I asked you if they called it ethnic cleansing. You pointed to examples of violence.
Oh, no.
I know they've done violence. You can control F the article, by the way. The only term ethnic cleansing.
You see, the problem is that this guy is like just a random dipshit coming in, and there were so many factual points that like conspiracy theory points that he just kind of got away with. Like, imagine having this conversation with someone who's actually like fucking got like some debate talent and everything. Like, that's what I mean. Like if you go into a debate with fucking war crime deniers, hey, you gotta know a lot of shit, because this guy did get away with quite a bit. He got away with a few things. Like,
used here is when in reference to what the Serbs did. So again, not ethnic cleansing.
Okay, just because somebody does not use the word ethnic cleansing,
I asked you if they use the term. No, no.
Let me finish.
No, you used it. No. You can't. Just admit that you were wrong to say the KLA was engaging in ethnic cleansing.
No, because okay. Let me say why. Right. So just because it doesn't say the term ethnic cleansing, but the term described there fits the definition of the ethnic cleansing, would label as ethnic
it does not fit the definition of ethnic cleansing.
Well, okay, so you think that the widespread and systemic burning and looting of homes belonging to the Serb and other minorities, not ethnic cleansing, and destruction of Orthodox churches and the monasteries, combined with the harassment and intimidation designed to force the people from their homes in the communities, that's not ethnic cleansing according to you. But when the Serbs killed two families, that's ethnic cleansing. You're obviously...
Wait, I'm sorry, what was that last sentence you just said right there? When the Serbs...
Combined with the harassment and intimidation designed to force the people from their homes in the communities.
Compared to when the Serbs do what? What did the Serbs do?
Compared to the Serbs kill a few families at the beginning before the war.
Kill a few families at the beginning.
Yes, exactly.
Do you understand how dishonest and partisan you are?
This is before the war. I specifically timeline before
We're not
not before the war, before the bombing. My bad.
No. Stop. Listen, this is a desperate effort on your part to equivocate when you are the oppressor here. You say, I even give you an out. I say, did the Human Rights Watch call it ethnic cleansing? And you say yes, confidently. And then you bluster out of it when it turns out they don't. It's fine. I misremember things all the time. But you are so desperate to compare. I don't know if you understand. Over half the population of Kosovo was displaced from their territory. You are not big enough dogs to engage in this kind of delusional denial. Russia does stuff like this, and they're not strong strong enough to get away with it. I'm an American. You want nationalism? I can lie about whatever I want, but I don't have to, because in addition to being part of the strongest country in the world, I'm also right on this one. I haven't misrepresented anything in this conversation. Nothing is more pathetic than nationalism from countries that are hamstringing themselves in the global market because they can't put aside how much they hate ethnic groups that would constitute 0.25% of the population of the United States if every single one of them was to emigrate here. It's pathetic. You're not strong enough to be this proud. You realize this, right? Your people, the Serbian people, are starving. They are impoverished because they lock themselves out of market because they're still seething over the fact that Albania and Kosovo has gotten independence. And for what? Like, what are you gaining through this? Like, what? Like, holding on to this? Like, you're like, how old are you? You're not older than I am. I know that. You were probably barely even alive back when the KLA was still active. So what? Did your parents tell you this? Where did it come from? What incentivizes you to engage in this pithy, myopic nationalism when all it does is cripple you in your country?
Can I please finish? So
finish what?
You attacking me and attacking my own, like we are poor, don't have enough food, just shows how much you are just trying to avoid the arguments. Specifically,
no, you're fucking yourself. You could join the EU.
Please, let me finish. We work with EU on the Kosovo. Let me give you an example of what happens when you try to work with the EU and Kosovo, right?
No,
you
for your trade block.
Please let me finish. Please, I will explain you. So you have a Brussels agreement. This is agreement on normalization of the relationship with Serbia and Kosovo. It aims to make sure that the relationship with Kosovo and Serbia are better for the sake of people. So Kosovo gets this task: form the union of the Serbian principalities. You know what? They don't do that. This is a UN. This is EU. This is an agreement that's signed by both sides. They do not feel anything that they sign. We have a Washington agreement, which was in 2000, I believe.
Here comes the epic Serbian dipshit. Yes.
In 2017, 18, something during the Trump administration, it was purposely for economic benefits of the both people. They break agreements. In those kind of agreements.
Fuck these chats. I hate these chats. We need to go. Fuck, we're doing it. I don't know why I didn't do it sooner. We're going maximalist. Or should I put it here? Put my chat here. I'll put me. I'll put me here. Okay.
It said that the both sides will not stop each other. Sorry, will not. The Serbian side will not make sure that the other countries are trying to like revoke the recognition, and that the Kosovo will not try to join any other.
Let them go. Let them go.
But the thing is, they break the agreement. To talk about the EU, this is an EU agreement.
Let them go. Let them go. They just want to live. Let the Albanians in Kosovo go.
After they ethnically cleansed all the Serbs.
After they, a decade ago, I don't care.
No, I look like a painting on Vaush's wall. Yeah, nice.
But he cares. Oh my God. You're like,
Serbs care.
No, I know Serbs care because you people are fucking insane.
Care.
Russian,
no,
because you're baby Russians. Of course Russians care.
Why does the majority of the world agrees with us? Do you understand that the majority of the world...
The majority of the world? Buddy, Serbia. You think Serbia is the towering pillar of international respect and recognition? Are you fucking kidding me?
Well, the United States of America is definitely not. We can tell them
the United States rules the world. You are delusional.
And supports terrorist organizations.
No shit.
Oh, no. Multipolarity, soy. I thought the pillar of the world was Ukraine. Ukraine, Scotland, and Albania. I thought those were the countries. Wait, that's racist. We need a black country and an Asian country. Ukraine, Serbia. No, Ukraine, Albania, Scotland, fucking Botswana, Congo, Taiwan. And Ecuador. That's the those are the pillars of world domination. Okay? Give every oppressed country to one of those countries. Ireland? Maybe. Maybe Ireland. Maybe Vietnam. Who knows? You need to wear a halo so you look like an angel on Vaush's shoulder.
what we do. We do whatever the fuck we want. You are not strong enough to be this proud.
This is pure imperialism and the nationalism. You're literally
you are justifying an ethnic cleansing to me. You're really crying that I'm part of the global hegemon because your little play genocide didn't get to complete. You know, you're like children fighting with each other, and when the adults step in to break you up, you get mad. Well, you guys get to do what you want. Yeah, we do. You don't. And the thing you were trying to do was bad. You were trying, it's not even like you were trying to build socialism. You were trying to kill Albanians. You were like, this is one of the few instances where our imperialism was good. You gave us a good pretext.
No.
Yes,
it's really not.
Over a million displaced. Over a million displaced. Tens of thousands killed. You have nothing but justifications. Do you wish you could have been there raping and killing Albanians in their villages in the Kosovo province? Do you see that you get to live in Cucks, Serbia, where you guys don't get to, I don't know what, drag Albanians to your local lynchings every Sunday? What? Where? How are you being affected?
I thought socialism was when you killed Muslims. Jesus Christ, dude. Fuck, Vaush.
You're really delusional, but it's fine. I don't want to go into the personal argument.
How old are you? How old are you?
Again, you're going for personal arguments. This has nothing to do. This has nothing to do.
How old are you?
Nothing.
No, it does have something to do because your balls haven't dropped, and you're trying to like replace your sense of personal accomplishment with national pride. I've seen this. Okay. I've seen this before. I know American nationalists. I know what nationalism does to people's brains. You have nothing.
It's not even. It's weird because the guy's not even like a big like national supremacist guy. He's just like a. He's like an he's a fucking war crime denier and a brain rotted America bad person. But it's not like he's if you've like I've spoken to Serb nationalists before. Like this guy is not a fucking this guy is not your standard Serb nationalist. Serb nationalists are out there with their fucking kill kebab songs and talking about all that mad shit and like standing Gavrilo Princip and the Black Flag and shit or whatever they were fucking called, the Black Hand. This guy's he's given he's doing the fucking the Nazi jacketing. Yeah.
Yourself. You were born after this conflict ended, weren't you? Bill Clinton had already left office by the time you were born, and now you long for the days past, like those Deus Vult wannabe convert Catholics.
Affects me on daily basis. Do you know how?
I know you don't get your Sunday lynching anymore. Tragic.
No. Let me explain. You see, you are very biased. You're showing your hate. It's very funny. You are still calling me a nationalist.
I hate ethnic cleansing. This is true.
No, you engage in a nationalist rhetoric. You are saying how we are the superior. You're engaging in superiority rhetorics. I'd never engaged in any of these rhetorics, but at the same time you're accusing me of being a nationalist. That's quite ironic for you, for a person who claims to be a lefty. But we're gonna put that aside. I just want to go.
We don't need to put it aside. I just think it's really funny when nationalism.
Yeah, this guy does not like. So there's a difference here, right? There's far right nationalism, which is the kill kebab shit. This is like brain rotted left wing America bad nationalism. It's very different, but that's what this is. I think this guy does consider himself a leftist the way he's talking. Like, it's the same thing. Remember that conversation we had with the Israeli guy who called himself a leftist? I mean, the party he supports is about as left wing as you get in Israel, and he was saying all kinds of weird nationalist shit. Like, yeah, like when you have some countries, especially countries that have been mired in fucking imperialism, yeah, you do get this kind of string of like people who consider themselves very left, even though they support very non-left regimes and ideas. So yeah, it happens.
It's being espoused by people who are like in a ditch somewhere.
It's basically in countries that have done like very recent colonialism and oppression of other peoples.
Do you want to go down to the arguments? I
want to ask you. You just said it affects you. Tell me how the independence of Kosovo affects you.
Okay, I will explain both. Why does it affect me and why the Serbs are nationalists? So you get the idea. So how it affects me, it's considered a disputed area, and when you have a disputed area, that means that the rest of the people
who disputes
want to invest disputed area in your country.
Who disputes it?
That means
does Kosovo dispute it?
around majority of the world disputed. You understand that the Kosovo doesn't. The majority of the countries support Serbia. You understand that?
It's half and half, but okay.
Let's see. Kosovo has been recognized as an independent state at one time or another by a total of 119 nations.
That is a fake, very fake.
Oh, it's fake. Gotcha. Okay, it's a fake.
We can talk about it. 25 countries revoked the recognition. I mean, this is you ignoring the numbers. This is you purposely ignoring the stats. Majority of the world supports Serbia. That's one thing. Second thing is how it affects me.
Let's see. 26. So 22 out of 27 EU.
You asked me the
Wait,
question,
well, you said something wrong.
But you asked me the question. So please, let me finish. Hold on. Can I finish?
22 EU member states recognize Kosovo. 26
it's EU, so it matters more. They are white, so it matters more.
You guys are in Europe.
Don't matter. Those people from Africa don't matter. Is this the argument that you're going for?
Well, hold on. I'm genuinely curious.
It's when people make this argument. It's like when you have like China recognizing or refusing to recognize Kosovo independence, like China's a fucking dictatorship, you know? Yeah. It's like a sticky situation though for a lot of countries because that idea of recognizing breakaways can be a little bit bad precedent for parts of the world.
Wait, hold on.
This is absurd.
Genuinely curious. If I'm trying to look for regionalist attitudes towards Kosovo, why would I look towards Africa? Wait, out of curiosity, what can you explain to me what position Nigeria would have on Kosovo that would influence my perspective? Why? Why would I care about any other than its neighbors?
What about Russia, China?
Why would
India?
I care about Russia?
Brazil?
Why would I care about Russia and China? God, these fake lefties, man. We know. Because you guys are miniature Russia, so you have to keep your pathetic secondary hegemony.
What about Romania? What about Greece? What about Slovakia? What about all of those countries?
What about all the countries that I listed? 22 out of 27 of the EU member states, 26 out of 30 NATO.
Why do you think they matter more than other countries? This is a superiority complex. Again, you're showing superiority complex.
We are.
I mean, if you want to make this argument, you could say, well, if this was recognizing the independence of Western Sahara, I'd probably ask African countries, but not Europe. But even then, that can get you into problems as well. Like, I don't know. I think international recognition is a good thing to strive for, but it's pretty hard when it comes to Kosovo.
You can't. No shit. International recognition is about power.
But thank you for admitting it live on the stream that you're engaged in the superiority of rhetoric.
Holy shit. Live on stream, we acknowledge the fact that international recognition comes down to power. That's crazy. People are going to be writing books about this one for decades.
That's not how it works in principle. That's not how
so you know who recognizes Kosovo?
The law that you signed, so basically you're telling
Kosovo recognizes Kosovo, and Serbia doesn't. But you guys got your ass kicked by NATO, so you know it's kind of a situation you can't do much about.
Yeah, someone is DMing me saying that like this guy is a lot more moderate than the average like Serb nationalist. I feel like this guy is about as soft a Serb nationalist as you'll get because like that doesn't surprise me, that thought.
Not get our ass kicked by the NATO. That's the thing. The NATO, by the end of the war, signed a resolution where it says that Kosovo is a part of Serbia. How did we get our ass kicked by the NATO when the resolution that you signed by the end of the war, which marked the ending of the bombing?
Dude, I take it back. We should have bombed you guys for way the fuck longer. We should have.
Okay, every time someone says he's hiding his power level, I don't give a fuck. Like, engage with what he's saying. I don't care if he's hiding his power level. What are you gonna do? Just like. You can't prove that. He's gonna shadow box? Like what?
We should have dropped that. We should have nuked you guys.
You see,
Holy shit! We didn't get our ass kicked.
Acknowledge it. Yeah, the fact that he acknowledges Serb war crimes is pretty.
By NATO, we could liquidate your country. Are you fucking kidding me? It took one bombing run for you guys to surrender. Are you fucking kidding me?
God damn it, dude! I love that. Was like it's like a 1-2, isn't it? Or it's not even that. It's like a feign attack. Was Israel a decoy so he could go for Serbia instead? The fuck? Oh God.
9. The what marked?
There is nothing Serbians like more than killing Albanians, and you guys gave up even.
Look at the chat. Holy shit.
that with
true.
just one bombing
That-
run. It's like the
You
one thing God
ignore-
gave you guys.
You ignore the ethnic cleansing. You engage in this nationalist rhetoric. You engage in the superiority rhetoric.
Why the Balkans includes fucking Greece? That's not even if you're a racist, you wouldn't say the Balkans. What? Cosmic Bobble. Explain yourself. Fucking degen over here. Wow.
And then you accuse me of doing this.
Weren't you going to tell me how this affects you directly? Kosovo.
Yes, I did, but you interrupted me like 15 times.
Well, you said Kosovo's independence
the
is
Holodomor?
disputed, and I pointed out that
Yes,
the reason
Kosovo
why it's
independence is
disputed is because
disputed, so
Serbia
therefore-
won't.
Uptown Steamboat. Thanks for the tier 1 sub. Really appreciate that. I know they're memeing, but I don't know. I'm very black pilled on just memeing because you eventually get people in your chat who like if you do those memes enough, you eventually cultivate an audience that just believes it. I don't really like that. I think you have to take your rhetoric kind of a bit more seriously if you're doing politics. Like,
Won't accept it.
But having at a risk, but it's not supposed to be disputed because the international law says that it's a part of Serbia.
like
but
it's not like there's not precedent, you know. Like we did, like the West did fucking glass a country that wasn't, you know, that was being kind of wacky. That was Japan, right? Like Imperial Japan. So, like when I say give all the countries to Scotland and Albania and Ukraine, it's I mean I can that that it's not like there's no precedent there, but I feel like the anti I don't know. It's like if you it's kind of thing if you want like attacking just like Serbs as in general, like just like Serb civilians and shit like that. Like there are reasons these parts of the world have these crazy problems. Like even it's the same thing as attacking like Russian civilians or like Russian nationalists rather than the systems or the political forces. I always thought wasn't it that Michael Brooks quote like be nice to people and be cruel to systems? I don't know. I feel like that's a good mantra to live by, and you know. But the problem is people see, like talk to a person or even a group of people like Serbs, and they see all they see is the system, and the people just become a fucking punching bag with a picture of the system, fucking attached to it. I don't know. I don't like it.
to break international
It's not my style, you know.
law.
We don't care.
Yeah, you don't care about the international law, but at the same time, you use international law for the Ukraine.
Well,
Okay,
it was
good job.
against international
Good job.
law to
That's
do an
what-
ethnic
you know what's
cleansing in
called?
Kosovo.
That's
so.
called double standard. That's called hypocrisy. But okay, we're gonna put that aside.
Hey, you know, as a lefty, I don't support all laws. Have you ever considered that?
You're definitely not a lefty. You're definitely not a lefty.
You're right. I
can
don't
assure you.
subscribe to anti-Albanianist, ethnic
No,
cleansingist thought.
You are definitely not a lefty. A majority
Marxism
of the
with
leftists
mass
would not
grave
agree with the
characteristics.
nationalists and the superiority rhetoric that you're putting on a lot.
Marxism with mass grave characteristics. Yeah, if someone tries to say Milosevic was a socialist regime, that is kind of funny. Yeah. I mean, if you want to get really emotional and like into the hyper sensational fucking Serb atrocities, is just read about what happened at the concentration camp in Bosnia. What was it called again? Fuck, why do I keep forgetting the name? Holy shit. Amarska. Amarska in Prijedor. If you read about that, what happened inside that camp, here, I'll give you a link. There's this particular guy in there, one of the particular officers, who I can't even say what it was. If you want to read about yourselves independently, just click that link and Control F the word testicle. All right, you'll be all right.
right
Okay,
now.
how does it
But we're
affect
gonna
you? How does it affect you? Come on.
Disputed area means that there's a higher risk of the conflict, and by having a higher risk of the conflict, there's obviously going to be small amounts of investors who are going to engage in.
Then just accept that it's independent. Then it's fine. If it's not disputed between you two.
The international law says it's a part of our
Nobody
country.
cares.
But
it doesn't. It's not. Wait.
Wait.
Hold on. Just so you know, recognizing the independence of a nation isn't breaking international law. You're misusing that a lot. Okay?
Exactly what it is.
No, that resolution only indicated what it was at the time. Recognizing a country as independent doesn't
talks about
you do not have to forever thereon recognize a country as only what it's been declared to be at that time.
Until the two sides agree on the other stuff. Did all two sides agree on other stuff? I don't think they did.
Yeah, well, that's crazy. It looks like we've recognized a different set of attributes associated with Kosovo.
So what you're saying is that you basically broke international law.
Why are you such a bitch about this, dude? Nobody gives a shit.
International law. You are veto member. You're supposed to be promoting it.
Cares. People use international law to defend Israel. People use international law to defend. Listen, through international law, you can defend a lot of U.S. imperialism. I'm not making an argument through international law. I just want you to personally rape fewer Albanians. That's it. If international law stands between me, I know you want to do that. If international law stands in between me and keeping you from raping Albanians, then international law can go bin it. I do not personally care. I want to ask you personally, how your life is made worse through Kosovar independence.
Okay. So as I said, lesser chances of investments. That means that it's going to have problems with the economy. Obviously, you're not going to get as big of investments that you usually would get. So therefore, it causes problems when it comes to economy. Obviously, especially when we consider the fact that in an economic world that we live in today, so where a lot of stuff, especially with the small countries, revolves around investments. That's one thing. Second thing is you talked about. I wanted to talk about this as well. You talked about Serbia not willing to engage with the EU, but Serbia engages with the EU, but Kosovo breaks those agreements that are signed in Brussels. So let's talk about what NATO has managed to achieve for the Kosovo, because you are.
No, wait, I was talking about you. We were talking about you.
Why do you want to talk about me so much?
Because like your nationalism is crippling your brain. I just want to know.
But I never said anything about nationalism. You're the one who engaged in nationalism. You called yourself a Serbian nationalist in my but the Serbian nationalist, when it comes to those stuff, I usually talk about my foreign policy towards other approaches and economic policies. I do not think I'm going to tell you that the most Serbs agree with me on these issues, and that the Serbian state.
Yeah, I don't. Wait, why would I care what your people think? You guys suck. You're like the worst.
Because that means that according to you, everyone single of them is a nationalist, and that they engage in this rhetoric.
I didn't say every single one of them. A lot of you guys, though, there are a lot of Serbian nationalists. That is true. Nationalist sentiment is high in Serbia. The whole Balkan region. You people all have some kind of brain defect. I don't know,
bro. Like. Why the do these people even know what the fucking Balkans entails? Like Greece and Bulgaria and Romania are all like Balkan. I don't know. Bosnia's Balkan. And they were the victims of the genocide. Okay, yeah.
You see, it's really funny.
Because Kosovars are Balkan. Albanians are Balkan. Croats, Balkan. Slovenia. They declared independence 1991 from Yugoslavia. Oh.
Engage, it's how you label yourself as a lefty, but at the same time you manage to use this insult in a racist manner, and this goes through so easily. Like, I just don't believe it. But we're gonna put that aside. I want to talk about what you managed to achieve on a Kosovo. So currently,
the guy could actually get a lot more optical digs here if he wanted to. It does feel like he's trying to be like polite and shit. I don't know, at some points. He was a bit smarmy at some bits, but I don't know. It does feel like he's trying to keep it on topic rather than because there you could have just said that Vaush was like painting Albanians as fucking brain defected as well.
Right, whatever brain defect you have doesn't get in the way of the mass expulsion and murder of Albanians, so it hasn't affected you guys in your day-to-day lives.
Kosovo leaders of Kili were accused of
I know the Zizek video, I know. And it's a massive cope, but yeah.
Cleansing as well.
Yeah, good thing you two got split up then, like unruly children.
But we are not split up. There is a huge minority in Serbia that is getting prosecuted as we're speaking.
What minority?
Would you gonna ignore that? Minority in Kosovo of the Serbs. Sorry.
How
in
many?
The
what minority?
150,000 people approximately.
Okay.
It would be much more, but you know. So let's talk about.
I wonder. That's crazy. I wonder if the Serbs did anything recently that might have made the people in Kosovo dislike them. We might never know.
Absolutely not. We did not do anything. We tried to.
I mean, that doesn't justify attacking civilians in the country, though.
We try to engage in a very peaceful.
Dude, come on! This is like a joke. Very peaceful. Come on.
Yeah.
Nah, okay, wait. I can play along for a bit, but you're so just so you know, ideologically, you're indistinguishable from a Holocaust denier. You just have a different national axe to grind.
But you
instead of the Jews, it's the infinite cabal of the Albanians looking to displace Serbs. Instead of the great replacement of white people, it's the great replacement of Serbs. Instead of the Holocaust not happening, actually, it's like NATO lied about everything and all these facts that say that we were doing ethnic cleansing.
You're accusing me of being a Nazi. But what you're doing is accusing me of being a Nazi.
No. I'm saying, wait, hold on. No, I'm not calling you a Nazi, okay? The difference is they actually came closer to winning their war. All right, goodbye.
Whoa.
All right. Good hustle.
Whoa.
God damn.
Strong take
Holy
there,
shit.
Vaush.
Oh, did I move? Sorry, I misclicked on the, on the
he
thing.
did
There we
that.
go.
I thought that was me.
Oh my god. Fucking holy shit. The Balkan region. Oh my god. Jesus Christ. Oh my god. So yeah, so the I don't think I'll ever go over Marxism with masquerade characteristics. Dude, fuck. I wanted to be like kind with that guy or whatever, but that guy like ideologically really is not that far off from a Nazi. I hope everyone watching recognizes that. Like the rhetorical obfuscation where every time he came back to the same subjects, he would be like, oh yeah, the KLA doing an ethnic cleansing and the peaceful Serbian, you know, like police keeping, like every time he would never like own any of the facts that were established. He would always walk them back the next time they came up.
I think you kind of have to acknowledge when you do these things, like when you even if you can say like most of what that guy was saying was wrong, like he was trying to operate within like some semblance of reality. And you know, some of the things he did say were like the thing about the fucking Racak massacre denial. Like he probably genuinely believes that because it's probably like a very common talking point with you got like a nation where people are basically like are quite traumatized and there's a lot of propaganda that goes around and people are really emotional and like probably the case that like a lot of Serbs have like one or two relatives who were lost and who died in the NATO bombings and shit like that. So yeah, I feel like people do have to acknowledge that, like when you're dealing with that. I don't think it makes everyone aligned with fucking Nazis, but I don't know. Just what people like to call people Nazis. You know, it just makes you feel better or whatever. Yeah. Yeah.